When you're doing your air brake practical test, you have 11 steps, and you need to explain each step to the examiner, and you need to tell them what's good about each step and what's defective. So the first step, you need to secure the vehicle, step 1. So you need to make sure that the wheel blocks are in place, and you need to put a wheel block in the front and the back of the rear tire. And then, okay, so when you come back in the vehicle, you need to make sure that your parking brakes are applied. So make sure that they're both pulled out. And you need to do step 2 next, which is test the low air pressure warning device. Before we test the low air pressure warning device, you need to make sure that the engine's on. And you need to make sure that your pressure's over 90 psi. If it's not over 90, you just wait for the pressure to build up. Okay, so the pressure's over 90 psi. Now we start pumping the brake pedal until the low air warning device activates. Okay, so the low air warning device activated at about 75 psi, which is good. If it was below 55 psi, it'd be defective. Now we need to do step 3, test the air pressure buildup time. Before we can start step 3, you need to make sure that the RPMs are between 600 and 900. And the next thing we need to do is reduce our pressure down to 80 psi. Get your timer ready, and once it hits 85 psi, you start the timer to see how long it takes from 85 to 100. So there's 85 psi. Start the timer. Okay, so that's 100 psi now. It took 34 seconds, which was good. If it was over 2 minutes, it'd be defective. Next, we're going to do step 4, which is confirm the air compressor governor settings. First, we're going to do our cutout, which needs to be between 100 and 135 psi. We know our cutout is working when you hear a loud purge sound, so we're just going to wait for the pressure to build up. Okay, so there was our loud purge sound, which was about 125 psi, which was good. If it was above 135 psi or below 100, then the vehicle would be defective. So from our cutout, we need to find our cut-in, which is about 20 to 25 psi below our cutout pressure. So since our cutout was 125 psi, we're going to reduce it by pumping the brake pedal down to just below 100. So now we just wait for the needles to climb. And once we start seeing the needles climb, then that means our cut-in's working. So the needles are climbing, which is good, our cut-in's working. If it was below 80, then the vehicle would be defective. Okay, next we're going to test our air loss rate. So you need to make sure that you release both of your parking brakes. Next, you need to make sure that the pressure is over 100 psi, and you need to make sure that your engine's off. Okay, so the pressure's just over 100 psi, so we're going to turn the engine off. You're going to hold your foot on the brake pedal for about 1 minute, and you're going to start the timer. So you're going to note the pressure. So the pressure is at about 88 psi, and you're going to see how much pressure you lose in 1 minute. Okay, so a minute's gone by. We lost about 3 psi, which is okay. If we lose more than 4 psi, then the vehicle is defective. Okay, next you're going to test the automatic application of the trailer brakes. So you're going to pull the trailer brake out and just listen for the exhaust. Once you hear the exhaust, then you know that the trailer brake's working. If you don't hear the exhaust, then the trailer brakes are defective. Next, we're going to do step 7. Test the tractor towing vehicle protection valve. Okay, now we're going to test the tractor towing protection valve. So you need to make sure that the yellow's down and the red's out, and then you're going to get out of the vehicle and go remove the blue service line. You're going to come back in the vehicle and hold your foot on the brake pedal for about 10 seconds. Make sure you don't hear any exhaust. We don't hear any exhaust, so that's good. If we hear exhaust, then the vehicle is defective. Then you get out and go put back the blue service line. Okay, next, you need to do step 8, which is test the operation of the spring brakes. So first, we're going to test the tractor spring brake. So the tractor valve is pushed down, the trailer valve is pulled out, and you're going to get out and remove the rear wheel block. Okay, you're going to come back in the vehicle, turn the engine on, put the vehicle in reverse, and slowly let up on the clutch. Okay, the vehicle's not moving, which is good. If the vehicle moved, then it'd be defective. So next, you need to test the trailer spring brakes. So you need to make sure, you need to pull out the yellow parking brake and make sure that the red one's pushed in. So you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to put the vehicle in reverse. You're going to slowly let your foot off the clutch. Okay, the vehicle's not moving, which is good. If the vehicle moves, then the spring brakes will be defective. So next, make sure you pull out the parking brake and go put back the wheel lock right away. Okay, next, we need to drain the air tanks. So you need to turn the engine off and go around to the air tanks. Make sure you note the pressure, because once you drain the air tanks, the pressure will drop. Okay, so first, I'm going to drain the top tank. So just pull on the valve for about 10 seconds. Okay, no water, no oil, no sludge. Next, I'm going to go in and check the pressure gauge. Okay, so neither needles have dropped. That means that's your supply tank. Next, I'm going to do the second tank for about 10 seconds. Okay, no water, no oil, no sludge. And the green needle dropped, which means that's your primary tank. And lastly, I'll do the third tank, which is back here, for about 10 seconds. Okay, no water, no oil, no sludge. And the orange needle dropped, so that means that that's your secondary tank. And all of your drain valves are working. If the drain valves weren't working, then the vehicle would be defective. Okay, next we need to do step 10, inspect the brake adjustment. So the examiner is going to ask you to inspect the left or right brake adjustment. If they ask you to inspect the left, then you turn the wheel all the way to the left. So you need to turn the engine on, turn the wheel all the way to the left, and then you need to make sure that you release the parking brakes. And you need your pressure to be 100 psi. Okay, so the pressure is 100 psi, so you turn the engine off and get out of the vehicle. Okay, once you open the hood, you need to come to the brake chamber. The brake chamber is already marked right here, and you need to explain to the examiner you have a brake chamber diameter of 172 millimeters. You have a circular port, which is right here. There's no L stamp on the cover, and there's no stroke tag. So we have a brake chamber size of 20 standard, and our push rod adjustment limit is 1 3/4 inches. So next, you need to push down the brake application. Okay, so once you can't push it anymore, then you come out of the vehicle pressure needs to be between 90 and 100 psi right now. So if it's below 90 to 100 psi, you need to start the engine and build up the pressure. Okay, so the pressure is just above 90, so you turn the engine off and come out of the vehicle. Next, you need to measure the push rod limit from the back of the brake chamber to where it's marked. So the push rod limit is just above 1.5 inches, which is good. If it was over 1 3/4, then the vehicle would be defective. And lastly, you need to do step 11, which is response to a defective vehicle condition. So if the vehicle is defective, you need to report it to the owner and it's prohibited from driving.